Hey guys, what's up? It's Snake here, and we finally made it. It's finally here, episode 11, Moon, part 1. And it's the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning, however you want to say it. And yeah, we finally made it. So first off, I want to apologize to everybody on how long it took. I'm really sorry it took so long, but it's here. It's finally here, so I hope you all enjoy this, and it's going to be really exciting. We're going to break this up into two parts. Obviously, the two parts of the Easter egg, we're going to get to the end of Cryogenic Slumber Party with this video, and then the rest of the Easter egg is going to be on the second part of the video. And the way we're going to break up the information is this video is going to be the whole storyline. And I'm sort of going to kind of glaze over most of the stuff we've already done, but we're going to go back in time to December 4th, 1939. Start from the very beginning, figure out exactly how Richtofen began his master plan, and then put us into it, figure out all the pieces, put them together, and go from beginning, from the walnut, all the way to the end where we're on the moon and well, obviously all hell is broken loose on Earth, as everyone who's done the Easter egg already knows. So that's how we're going to start this video, and then the next video is going to be all theory and speculation. What happens next? Who are these aliens? Where did they come from? All the stuff like, why was Shangri-La built? Who was it built by? All that kind of stuff that isn't directly related to our storyline, to our story arc of Richtofen, but is part of the bigger story, the bigger epic story, which will of course be continued either in the next Call of Duty by Treyarch, or hopefully, everybody seems to be hoping this, but hopefully Zombies will get its own game. And so we'll see the next part of the larger story, the next story arc that we're going to go through next. And of course, we'll find out more information. But my guess, at least if Treyarch is smart, they're going to do several. They're not just going to do this one story and then another one, and that's going to be it. We're probably going to see many parts to this larger story. So there's a lot of speculation to be had. There's a lot of ideas to go through and stuff like that. So that's all going to be the second part of the video. As well as other little tidbits and interesting things that I've found out in Moon. Like for instance, here's just a preview, and we'll discuss this in more detail in the second part of the video. But I find it pretty interesting that the explosion from a quantum bomb looks exactly like the explosion when you kill the phantoms. When you shoot the phantoms and they blow up, it looks exactly the same, which seems kind of strange. Also, when the Phantom teleports you, not only does he take one of your perks, but then your perks switch around randomly. Just like the QED works, it's all random. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But we'll talk more about what the hell that means in part 2 of Moon. So let's get right down to it, because there's a lot of stuff to get through. So our story really begins on December 4th, 1939, when Richtofen and a new doctor that we find out about through the radios and reels, Dr. Schuster, who are both part of Group 935, which of course is part of the larger group, the Illuminati. So these guys are working together, and they're working on the matter transference device, which is the teleporter. And they actually make a breakthrough on December 4th. They teleport a walnut, whatever they say, what is it, it's like 5 meters or 10 meters, something like that, with a brick wall in between, and that actually teleports the walnut from one spot to the mainframe, just like the teleporters work at Doris. So of course they go out and they tell Maxis, and they're like, hey, check this out, because Maxis is in charge of their section of Group 935, or I guess maybe probably of all of Group 935. So Dr. Maxis is in charge, so of course they go and tell him. But come to find out that Dr. Maxis has made a deal with the devil, or should I say Hitler. And so Hitler is giving him money, which they of course need money to continue their research. And so Maxis is thinking, well, the war is going to end eventually, pretty soon anyway, through a treaty or something like that, so we might as well take the money while it's here, go ahead and make them some weapons, but in the long run we'll be able to use all of this technology that we've created to better mankind, which is the original idea of Group 935, is for the betterment of the human condition. So, so he goes, okay, well, screw the teleporter. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's go and make these weapons for the Nazis, take their money, and then after the war's over, we'll start dealing with the teleporter. Of course, really what Maxis is doing is he's going to take the teleporter and try and figure out how it works and use it to his own devices, while he's still taking the money from the Nazis, and gets Richtofen away from the project and has him working on the DG2 and the monkey bomb and stuff like that. So Richtofen, of course, doesn't like that. So him and Schuster together go and continue to perfect the teleporter. So a month later, January 4th, 1940, they're ready for a human subject. So of course, Richtofen says, okay, I'll do it. So they go to teleport him, and he doesn't get teleported to the mainframe because he's a living organism. And so what ends up happening is he's actually teleported to the moon, where he hears these strange voices and he sees this pyramid that's here. And the voices are talking to him, and we don't know exactly what they say, but obviously he was called there for a reason. Possibly possibly the pyramid, whatever it is, whatever is inside of it, in the ether, on the other side, or in the alternate dimension, however you want to put it, is calling to him, possibly because they know how crazy he is and how insane he is, and it wants to use him. And then after he goes there and the voices get inside his head, he's then teleported to Shangri-La. Now the interesting thing is that once he goes to Shangri-La, we hear something happen and he screams, "Oh no," and that's all we hear about it. It just clips out, so we don't know exactly what went on at Shangri-La, but it's very possible that Shangri-La had zombies there at that point. Now, why do I think this is the case? Why do I think zombies were already at Shangri-La? Well, we already know that Moon and Shangri-La are linked, because otherwise why would Richtofen be teleported first to the Moon, get the voices in his head, and then get teleported to Shangri-La? So obviously we know they're linked, and of course when I refer to Moon, I'm talking about the original installation of the alien technology, this giant pyramid. Not Griffin Station, but the alien pyramid itself. So the alien pyramid must have been deposited in the Moon, or created in the Moon, at the same time that Shangri-La was built, possibly thousands of years ago. Now the other interesting thing we're going to find out in a little bit is that the pyramid is powered by souls, by life essence, or life force. So you have to sacrifice souls in order to generate the power for the pyramid. But afterwards you're left with this living, soulless body, this zombie-like creature, which then of course gets deposited in Shangri-La. So there's a whole bunch of zombie-like creatures hanging out in Shangri-La already, because there must have been sacrifices to the Moon before, when it was originally built, before Richtofen discovers it. And then, of course, eventually it goes dormant. But all of these zombies are still hanging out at Shangri-La. And this makes perfect sense, too, when we think back to when I was talking about the demon race that inhabited Agartha inside of the Earth, that would eventually come out and take over the Earth. Now, of course, Agartha is synonymous with Shambhala, or Shangri-La. So you see how it all ties in. That demon race that inhabited Agartha, that was eventually going to take over the Earth, is actually just a bunch of zombies, or soulless corpses that were left over from the original sacrifice to this pyramid, who knows how long ago. So 19 days pass, and somehow Richtofen figures out a way to get out of Shangri-La, crosses the continent, and makes his way back to Germany, or wherever it is that they were doing the original experiments on the walnut and the teleporter. And it's January 23rd now, 1940. Schuster's about to call it quits, and Richtofen busts in and says, "No, we're not stopping anything. We found something amazing. So we're just going to hide it from Maxis. Screw him. We're going to keep working on this, and I'll just keep up a charade and pretend that everything's normal, and I'm going to do exactly what he says." So they go off, and between 1940 and 1942, they construct Griffin Station on the Moon. They build this station here on the Moon. Now, the really interesting thing about this, a little side note, is that Griffins, of course, an eagle head with a lion body, and of course they have the wings and all that stuff. Griffins are said to be guardians of divine treasure. So I find that kind of interesting, with the connection with the pyramid being some sort of divine entity or divine artifact. So we got Griffin Station being built, and it's finally complete. And of course, they have the corresponding station, Eagle's Nest, somewhere on Earth. Now, Eagle's Nest can probably be narrowed down to one of three locations, and there's indications that it could be any one of the three, really. Obviously, the first possible guess would be Shangri-La, because, like I've said before, it's linked to Moon. But not only that, all of the radio messages from Richtofen that we find in Call of the Dead, that's where he's at, is at Shangri-La. That's where he's working with Nikolai and Takio and the Mexican. And the reason why we know this is because after he kills the Mexican and the spleen pops out, we hear the monkey run up and steal it, just like he steals the perks. So we know that there's that connection there, and obviously we know Richtofen was working there because of his nameplate on the desk. So this was like one of his secret hidden locations from Maxis. So this could very possibly be Eagle's Nest. The other possible location, and this one's probably not as likely, but I do find it interesting, it could be somewhere in the German Alps. Now the reason why I say this is because Hitler's hidden bunker was in the Alps. And of course that's not a good enough reason by itself, except for the fact that Hitler's hidden bunker was also called the Eagle's Nest. So I know that's a little bit of a stretch, but you know, the fact that they have the same name and that 935 was working with the Nazis, you could possibly see how this may be where the Eagle's Nest is. The other possible place, and this one is the one I feel is probably more likely than not, because we've got to remember that Group 935 is not connected to any country, but we do know that there must be some connection to the Illuminati, because of course Group 935 was an original group of the Masons, or probably not an original group, but a group of the Masons, the Freemasons, who are directly linked to the Illuminati in many conspiracy theories. That, and we know Richtofen did work for the Illuminati. All the notes that are sent to him are written in Illuminati code. So we know that there's that connection there. Now, we also know the Illuminati are directly connected to America in many ways. A lot of the presidents were Freemasons, like JFK. I mentioned that before in the 5 video. Now, of course, what else is in America but Area 51, which is where we go to before we go to the moon, and that's where the teleporter is built that's linked directly to Griffin Station, and it only goes to Griffin Station and nowhere else. So it's fairly simple to make the guess that the Illuminati, who of course are connected with Group 935, have, well, maybe not have complete control of Area 51, but are connected with Area 51 in some way, with the research that is done there, the alien research and all the different things like that. They probably have a lot to do with the mining of element 115 from the moon, because of course we know Area 51 has a lot of 115. And of course, how else could they get that much 115 down from the moon, but again, back to the teleporter. So we see how the fact that we have this teleporter that can only go from one place to another and back again, and that's it, from Earth at Area 51 to Moon at the Griffin Station. And so now we can easily draw the line between Area 51 being Eagle's Nest and the moon having Griffin Station. So now it's 1942 and Griffin Station has been completed, and Richtofen leaves it in the capable hands of Dr. Goth or Groth or something like that, and he's in charge of figuring out how to make the pyramid work. We already know what it is. Richtofen's figured it out. It's a gateway to another dimension, to the ether, but they don't know how to open it, so he leaves Dr. Goth in charge and goes back down to continue pretending to be part of 935 and listening to Dr. Maxis and all that other stuff. So this whole time they're trying to figure out what it is. A rat goes by the cylinder and they kill the rat and it starts to charge it up. So now they know they have to kill things, they have to sacrifice the souls in order to power up this pyramid to open it up. So they start sacrificing these souls. Now, of course, after they get sacrificed, they get teleported back down to Earth as zombies. So that's how the zombies start showing up between 1942 and 1945. And this could very possibly be where all of the outbreaks that happen at Shinanuma and Verrückt and Nocturne and Toten and all of these places are occurring, because all of these places are having outbreaks prior to Sam being teleported away. You know, when Richtofen goes to kill Maxis and Sam. So these zombies are still working, and whether or not Sam is directly in charge, or it's her subconscious, or what her subconscious exactly is, maybe it's this more powerful being that's inside the pyramid. Because of course, as we play through the Easter egg, when you get to the point where you're collecting 100 souls, and we'll talk about that later. But Sam says that Richtofen doesn't know what he's doing, because there's something even stronger and more powerful than he is inside of here. Here, of course, referring to the pyramid. So it's very possible that the demonic voice that Sam uses is this entity inside that was already inside the pyramid before she got there, and is what is giving her the telekinetic power that she uses in order to control the zombies. And so we see how maybe there was a connection between Sam and the pyramid before she even got there. This sort of voice that was reaching out to her, this entity that was reaching out to her. And that's what was controlling the zombies before she got there. Now they start sacrificing these zombies to open up the pyramid, and finally they have the breakthrough in 1945. They completely fill it up, and it's all ready to go. And Operation Shield is ready to be commenced. And Operation Shield, of course, is where Richtofen goes to kill Maxis. So he locks Maxis and Sam in a room with Fluffy, who has now been created, this demonic dog, which was teleported. Obviously must have been teleported, maybe not to Moon, but it was going through the same teleporter, and so the power from the pyramid is what turned it into the demon dog, into the hellhound. And so when Fluffy comes back, it goes to attack Sam and Maxis, and they use the teleporter to teleport away and end up on the moon. Now, Richtofen doesn't know exactly what happened, but then he contacts Griffin Station, and so they explain at Griffin that Sam got there and she went into the pyramid that had been opened after the sacrifices, and so now she's in complete control of the zombies. She's ready to go. She's going to start sending out the armies. Well, not yet. She's actually very scared. She doesn't know what's going on exactly, but she's inside the pyramid. Now Maxis is also on the moon, and so they use the MPD to figure out where he is. I'm assuming that must mean matter placement device, so it's used to locate different people or different things. And so they somehow had a sample of Maxis's blood or tissue or whatever. They put it into the MPD, figure out where he is, bring him to the location where Goth and Schuster are at, and fill him in on what's going on, use him to get Sam out of the pyramid. So after he calms her down, Maxis is pissed off, obviously, because he hadn't known about any of this stuff. He didn't know what was going on. So he decides to turn on everybody and says, Sam, go ahead and kill them all. He gives her carte blanche, if you will. And so that's when she goes crazy, destroys everybody. And it must be at this point, when she lashes out, that she actually transfers Maxis from being alive, from being a normal human being like me and you hanging out on the moon. Not that you and me hang out on the moon, but you know what I'm saying. And he gets teleported into the ether as well. And so that's why when we get to Moon later on, he's going to talk to us just like Gersh did, from the ether through, I guess, the machinery, or I don't know exactly how the ether works completely. But Maxis is no longer in his body anymore, even though he has complete control of his mind. So now Sam's in the pyramid, and Maxis tells her to kill everybody, and so that's exactly what she does. She kills everyone at Griffin Station, she kills everyone at Kino and Derice and Farouk, and there's just a mass zombie outbreak at this point. Now at the same time, Richtofen has to get his plan underway, and he has to do it quickly. So he goes back to Shangri-La and picks up his crew, Nikolai and Takeo and Tank, and then it's off to Shinonuma where they need to get the DG2, which of course is going to be a power source for them. They have to take it back to Derice and pack-a-punch it. But then when they jump in the teleporter, the DG2 blows out and they get shot through time. So when they get to Kino, where they're going to pick up the Vril generator, and the reason why I think the Vril generator is at Kino is because in one of the radio messages we hear that Maxis is actually working on some Vril technology as well, which of course I believe to be the Vril generator. Somehow Maxis was able to procure the Vril generator, and so he has to go to Kino, or we have to go to Kino, I should say, to pick it up. But when we get there, we're there in the future and everything's gone. So we do a little bit of looking around and we discover that there's another Group 935 installation, as the Ascension group. So we need to go there in order to see if that's where the vril generator ended up. So we make our way off to Ascension, and when we get there, we discover Sam got there first and killed everybody, and drove Yuri insane, and ended up teleporting Gersh into the ether somehow. So we decide to go ahead and help Gersh for two reasons, because obviously there has to be a reason. Richtofen never does anything nice without a reason. One, obviously if we free Gersh, it's going to piss Sam off, and Richtofen loves to piss Sam off because he obviously hates Sam. The other reason is because from Richtofen's journals, the Group 935, the Ascension Group, created the Casimir mechanism from his journal. So they figured out how to make it work. So he obviously wants to help repair the Casimir mechanism, even if it happens to help somebody else out, simply so he can figure out exactly how it works and know how to use it once he gets to Moon, in order to open up the portal to another dimension and put himself inside of the pyramid. So we go ahead and do that, but the other thing we also do at Ascension is Richtofen gets in contact with the Illuminati, because obviously the Illuminati still has their ties to Group 935. So at that point, the Illuminati, part of the Illuminati, the people who were working with Richtofen on Griffin Station, said, hey, we got the vril generator, we have it for you, we have it at the Siberian location, which is Call of the Dead, so you need to go there and pick it up. But when we teleport to there, we end up traveling through time again to the present day, to 2011, and we're stuck behind the locked door. So we need to get the four actors to run as errand boys to go and get the vril generator from the Illuminati who are hanging out in the sub just off the coast. So once we get that and we give it to Richtofen, he takes it, and then we shoot off to Shangri-La. Now, we no longer need the DG2 because it's blown and we don't need that power source anyway, so that's why we decide instead to go to Shangri-La, where we can get a hold of a giant meteor. And once we get to Shangri-La, of course, we have to use the shrink ray in order to shrink down the giant meteor, because the problem is power. We need enough power in order to do what it is Richtofen wants to do, opening the portal and getting himself into the pyramid. And we need a lot of power, of course. If we remember from the first experiment, the walnut experiment, they used quite a large chunk of element 115 in comparison to the size of the walnut in order to teleport it. So for what he needs, we need a lot more power to be generated. So he needs all of the element 115 that's inside the giant meteor, but it needs to be in a small enough size to be fit into the vril generator. So that's why we use the shrink ray, shrink the meteor down, jam it inside the vril generator, and now we have a power source. Now we don't need the pack-a-punched DG2 anymore. So now we're all set to go. We head over to the Eagle's Nest, which I believe to be Area 51, or I should say we head to Area 51, which I believe to be the Eagle's Nest. So once we're there, we go ahead and jump on the teleporter and we pop up here, and now we're at the moon, and now we're ready to go. Now we're ready to start his plan for real. So now we need to break into the security system, hack into the security system, and take control of the computers. And then once we do that, we have to unearth the egg with the excavator. And why it was buried, I'm not entirely sure. Why it was hidden inside. Possibly Sam hid it inside of the ground, inside of the moon. Who knows exactly why. But anyway, we get it out, we bounce it around a bit, it pops into the plate at the base of the pyramid, and so now the pyramid's turned on, or it's ready to accept the sacrifices. So we sacrifice enough of the souls, and the pyramid opens up, revealing Sam inside of it, and now we're ready to actually begin the transfer for real. So our next step then is to power up the vril generator in order to place it inside of the base plate, inside of the plate at the base of the pyramid. So now we need to put the Casimir mechanism together, which of course we know exactly how to do because of our time spent at Ascension helping out Gersh. So we head down to Earth and we pick up the plates, we bring them back up to the moon, and of course these plates look very similar to the ceramic plates found all over Derice, the ones used in the testing of Die Glock. So these plates must be very good buffers to sort of insulate the power that's generated by element 115. So we put these plates down, and if you remember the Casimir mechanism, I spoke in the Ascension video about the Casimir effect, where when two plates are placed close together, which have no energy, or they're at their base energy, when they're placed close enough together, they can actually generate this latent energy between the two of them. So of course we place them there connected to the computer, and then we place the vril generator in between the two of them, and the vril generator having the core of element 115 in there. We then do some typing, and of course we hear the little back and forth between Maxis and Richtofen, but the whole time what's going on is Richtofen is using the computer to use the Casimir mechanism to tap into the latent energy inside of the meteor of element 115 to power up the vril generator. And of course the vril generator, also known as the vril staff, I talked about in the Call of the Dead video, was used to sort of channel telekinetic energy. So now with the element 115 placed inside and tapping into its latent energy, it's channeling all of that element 115 energy inside of it. So we then have to take that and we go back to the pyramid, which now needs even more sacrifices because of the amount of energy that is in the vril generator. We need a lot more souls in order to do what it is exactly that we're trying to do. So we go ahead and kill 100 more souls, power up the pyramid completely, and pop that vril generator down into the base plate of the pyramid. And what happens next? Bam, pow, a giant flash of light, and zap. The essence, or the mind of Richtofen trades places with the mind of Samantha. So Samantha's body is still inside of the pyramid, and this of course is key for Richtofen. Richtofen actually literally needs to take her place because she has that telekinetic energy, that telekinetic power that Richtofen needs in order to control the zombies fully. So he needs her body as well as her place in the pyramid. So they actually transfer minds as opposed to literally transferring places. So now he's in Sam's body and Sam is in his body. And at the same time, what happens next, we also see that all of the zombies now have blue eyes instead of yellow. So of course now their eyes are blue because Richtofen's in control, whereas before they were yellow when Sam was in control. Why exactly is it the color yellow and color blue? I don't exactly know. But I'm almost 1,000% positive that the reason why the color changes in the first place is because the person in control of the zombies has changed. So now what happens next? Well, Maxis pulls a Gersh and starts talking to us from the ether and convinces us or tricks us or whatever it is into arming the missiles and shooting them out at the Earth to destroy the Earth so that Richtofen cannot control it with zombies. So the big question here is, did we do the right thing or did we do the wrong thing? Was Richtofen the good guy or was Maxis the good guy? Or is anybody really a good guy at this point? I mean, Maxis seems kind of like a bad guy to me, and honestly, so does Richtofen. So I'm not really sure if we did the right thing or the wrong thing, or if there was even a possibility of doing the right thing at this point. But now we're stuck with a blown-up Earth, with Richtofen in control of the zombies, and some little girl stuck in this really weird gay German body, hanging out with us, shooting zombies with us. But that is it, guys. That is it. We finished the story. We are finally here. We're finally at the end. The season finale has ended. And I gotta say, it's a pretty big cliffhanger. I mean, even Lost didn't have as crazy of a season finale cliffhanger as this on any of their seasons. This was amazing. This is a crazy story. It's insane. It's completely insane. And honestly, there's tons more questions to be asked. There's a lot more things to talk about besides the actual story itself. But here we are now, finished and done with the first season of Call of Duty Zombies. We've ended the story, and that's it. So like I said before, this is going to be a two-part video. This is going to be a two-part episode. So we've just ended part one. We've gone through the story. We're done. We've talked all the logistics and said everything that's happened. So part two is all going to be about theories, about speculation of what happens next. Where did the pyramids came from? What does this have to do with aliens? And what is going to be our next step? I mean, are we going to be traveling through time in order to make sure this doesn't happen, go backwards and fix it? Or are we going to be traveling through space to figure out exactly where the pyramids came from to see if there's some way to stop Richtofen now that he has control of the pyramid? You know, is it going to be space travel? Is it going to be time travel? Is there going to be space-time travel? Where are we going next? Is Sam going to be hanging out with us in the next game? You know, do we have to figure out some way in the next series of Call of Duty Zombies to sort of switch them back, to get Richtofen back in his body so we can either kill him or, I don't know, lock him up in a prison or whatever, you know? And that's the other big question too. Maybe the pyramid was a prison. Maybe when Sam says there's something more powerful inside of there, that's what was locked up to begin with, and we accidentally opened it up and let it out. You know, do we have to go around and catch whatever this entity is and destroy it or lock it back up? Like I said, there's so many more things to talk about. All the little things like I was talking about before with the QEDs having the similar explosions to the Phantoms. You know, the Antikythera mechanism, which Richtofen talks about, which of course isn't directly related to the storyline, but it's still an interesting mechanism, and there must be some sort of clue in there as to the zombie storyline, maybe what our next step is, maybe what's going to happen when we get back to Call of Duty Zombies in a year from now. Hopefully it'll be sooner than a year from now, but you know, obviously they need time to make the games, and I'd rather them take a year and come back with a whole nother good series of zombie maps than come back in 3 months with a crappy one. So we're just going to have to wait for that, and again, you're just going to have to wait for part 2 of this episode, which hopefully I'll have done in a week. Like I said, there's a lot more crazy things to talk about, so I really got to sit down and put it all together in my head, make a couple notes, and put the video together. Get this thing finished finally, and get the storyline completely done with. So until next time, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and peace out.
Everyone's favorite